On this week on Security Decoded, with the big news is China hackers, and we know where they are, we know what to call them, and we're going to talk about how they do it and what to do about it. Also, we got an Adobe and a Java, and wasn't that last week's episode? Yep, we've got more exploits. Finally, I'm going to give a talk about how malware gets on Android on this week's Security Decoded. Welcome to this week's Security Decoded. I'm here with John and Mike, and how's everybody doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, but a little bit better week. Short week, holiday week, so I'm refreshed and ready to go.
Oh, that's right. We had off Monday, didn't we?
Yeah, short week. That's you get the holiday off and you get a short week.
I completely forgot about that.
And has everybody been judging those other viruses, those cold viruses that have been going around?
I've been lucky.
Yeah. Well, I've been lucky too. I haven't.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knocking on some kind of wood.
Yeah.
I think it's wood.
Yeah. Well, I have something, usually start off with something that's in the news, and I've got something that's a little different. Twitter, this story was in The Atlantic, they rated tweets and the words that they use. And they came up with a listing of which states are the happiest and which are the saddest. John, which state do you think was the happiest?
Hawaii.
Hawaii, yes. You spent some time in Hawaii. Do you agree with that?
I do. It's just, it's small town politics. It's island politics. So everybody's family. It's just literally everybody's family. Everybody's an auntie and uncle. So, and I miss it. So I wouldn't disagree with it.
And Mike, you spent some time in Texas. Now, Texas came out pretty good. But there were a couple cities in Texas. Why do we think that was rated low for the tweets?
Have you ever been to Houston?
Yeah, these were cities near Houston. Yes.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot and humid all the time.
I
mean,
think it was
you
weather.
just can't get away from it. So.
Yeah.
When it's 90 and 90% humidity and 90 degrees, it's
yeah. See, now,
dry.
I actually lived in the north part of the state where it does get dry in the summertime. It gets very dry. In fact, everything turns brown. It's that dry.
Yeah.
And you really don't feel the heat so much as you do as when it's humid. So I can see. I would want to live in Houston. I mean, I don't even like visiting in Houston necessarily. Nothing against anybody who lives in Houston. But there are other parts of Texas that are south that are very pretty. You know, Austin and that area, and San Antonio. It's very pretty, very nice to go visit. And they're very hot and humid too, though. So.
Now, one of the words that they rated low is any curse word. Do we think that had any bearing on these tweets on the low ratings?
I gotta say, it's a demographic thing. I tend to notice that the younger generation just freely throws them around, and sometimes they freely throw them around in an expression of joy. But if they're keyword searching on it, then yeah, they miss the topic. They totally miss the target.
Well, if you go by that, you would think that Florida would get a really high score because in Arizona, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've all seen that Seinfeld episode where the Houston people come in and they start to swear, and everybody starts to swear. I thought it might be something like that. Yeah. Maryland also, for the record, I'm not sure why Maryland was in the bottom 5.
Maybe Maryland uses a lot of swear words.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's because we're close to Washington D.C.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to go ahead and hit the headlines. We have some very big news, some very big headlines. But first, watch live. Did you know that you can watch us record Security Decoded every week live? And while you watch, you can join the chat room while other live viewers, we've got some filing in right now, we have the chat room in front of us and while we record so we can be interactive with you. Okay, here is the biggest headline. I think it's the biggest one we've had since we've been on the air. But a new report, and this is from Mandiant, says, report says cyberspying group linked to China's army. So Mandiant, which is familiar to us because we talked about them, they cleaned up the New York Times breach, has come out and said, yes, it's China, it's state-sponsored.
I think Mandiant is because of their involvement with the New York Times and with this new claim to state sponsorship, they said that the New York Times felt like it came from behind the Great Wall of China. but they have been studying this for years. The fact that they're associating it now with a quote-unquote military element adds a new layer to it. But prior to that, I think what we were researching, what Mike and I and everybody had found was they actually went under several names.
Right. They've gone under, well, the most recent one was the comment. What is it?
The comment crew?
The comment crew. And that's basically because they've been putting comments in the headers that are long and like, oh, you guys said they seen with some that were like story-like almost.
And we did, and it's kind of interesting that you were able to find that piece of information about them being called the comment crew because we recently addressed a piece of malware that we've run into where within the header almost appeared to be excerpts from the Bible, but then you kept reading it and it was just borderline nonsensical.
The English was a little off in that translation. I wonder if it was something like that.
Yeah. And then sometimes we would find it not in English. We would find it in another language, which I think anyone can do by just dropping it into like Google Translate or something.
Right.
Like
And then that could be exactly what they did is they dropped it into Translate, tried to make something out of it that would make sense. Of course, it never translates 100%. It's close.
It's interesting that they bring it up and here. I mean, we're fresh off the heels of this. I mean, this is something that we've been working with, that we've seen and dealt with, and to have them disclose that, it just right away, I was like, I've seen this. And so, and then I think one of the other things that Mandy was using for them was LPT1.
Right. And... Yep, LPT1.
APT?
APT.
So APT then?
Yeah, that's right, APT, John. APT1 is what Mandiant has been calling them. Others in industry has been calling them comment crew. Now, Mandiant came out and said, you know who this really is? It's Unit 61398 of the China's People Liberation Army, or the PLA. So they were actually able to trace the building that they think this activity is coming from, and they were able to trace it back, APT1, and that's who they found out that was in this building.
And it's funny that in that same building is part of the Chinese army,
Yes.
in that same building. So I think that's pretty damning evidence.
It speaks volumes. And for Mandy to come out and to even suggest the connection, you don't pull a deck out of the card out of the deck like that without really doing your research. And,
right.
And they've been tracking APT1 for years now. And then to come forward with this additional piece, after doing the New York Times research, after doing this extensive study on APT or the comment crew, you just don't kick stuff out there like that with, they got something to back it up.
Right, and here I know some of our other news articles kind of relate to this down the line a little bit too, so we'll talk about this a little more as we go down through.
Well, it was big for lots of news agencies. New York Times, which was kind of ironic. Is this a little payback? And we have to think about whether what initiated the story and what initiated the hack. Do we think maybe the New York Times was getting close to the story and maybe they got hacked? Is this a possibility?
Well, one thing that you don't see a lot in the news, especially broadcast news. Print news that were out there, but actual broadcast news, like CNN. This story hit CNN.
And NPR.
Yeah. So to get that kind of media play, that's a big breaking story.
Mm-hmm. And the language is very bold. Even the responses from both from the U.S. government saying, yes, this is a problem, and we recognize it, which is very a delicate situation. We have a trading partner. We have multiple trade negotiations and other negotiations that nations have to conduct. And they're basically saying, you are hacking into our corporations and our government entities.
So do you think this is part of the reason why the State of the Union addressed cybersecurity
yes,
so closely?
I think that. And if we remember a week ago, the executive order detailing infrastructure for cybersecurity, which is another news article.
Not only it's our corporate infrastructure, but we had the Department of Revenue.
Right, that's right.
So we had a disclosed intrusion into one of our own agencies. So drop in the bucket theory applies. The bucket's overflowing. It's been overflowing now for a long time.
One thing I think it's important that people understand is this isn't something new. This has been going on as far back as 2006 with the comment crew. So it's not like a new thing.
Right.
It's been around for 6 to 7 years now. It's not like it's a new thing.
The
for
same
us.
type of hacks, too.
Right.
And it's a circle. So we were discussing about who they were targeting, who their current subject is, and in the past, anything that would question our government's integrity or their ability to protect themselves, that information was really kept close to chest. And now we have this changing of the guard where they get ahead of it. They're going to admit that they're going to make changes, with some of the topics we talked about last week. A lot of the government agencies, not only domestic but foreign, but it's more than that. It's corporations. They targeted heavy against corporations.
From the article that we have here from Network World, it says they compromised 141 corporations across 20 different industries. And then on the other article we have down here, they actually list some of the industries. It was finance, information technology, aerospace, energy, telecommunications, manufacturing and transportation, media, and public services.
Just about covered everybody.
Yeah, you pretty much covered everybody there. So,
but if you backtrack on the name APT, so if you're new to the show, please forgive me, I don't mean to insult anybody within the industry, but advanced persistent threat.
yes, this is advanced persistent threat number 1.
Yes.
APT 1.
That's right.
And you got to kind of wonder, so the whole theory, and people love to abuse APT, and it's always an after the fact, and you model initial infection vectors, period of time, technology used to make it fit this. But there's shifting targets. You almost got to kind of wonder that they were really leveraging APT at a time where APT didn't have a lot of notoriety, because you said it goes back 6 years.
Right.
To establish essentially a botnet. Okay, now I was able to penetrate this portion of the corporate world. No one sees me. I'm going to sit quietly while I probe here. Now no one sees me. I'm going to sit quietly while I probe here. How extensive is this, and how much haven't we seen yet?
Yeah, so the other question is, now that we know that we actually have a 12-story white office tower in the outskirts of Shanghai.
Pictures in many of these links.
Yeah, and they actually they say it's the same office headquarters as the headquarters for the People's Liberation Army. Is that enough evidence to go to somebody and say, look, something really is going on?
Now, to be fair, the Chinese ministry came out and said, we have no organized army, and I think that's key, army hacking crew in that building.
Well, they actually were as bold to say that China is aggressively pursuing cyber hacking in general, that they don't condone it, that they're doing what they can to curtail it, and then they go on to say, but we're victims too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they are.
That's a good point. Now, we don't have it cited, and I'm going to get that citation before we put it in the show notes. Earlier in this week, I read there was a Symantec, I believe, put it together. But most of the world's hacked, infected computers are in China. Over half of them.
Yeah, but you gotta.
That's one big botnet.
That's a zombie network. Did we talk about zombies again?
Zombies. Where's zombies?
But you gotta look at the population density. You know what I mean? I think if we broke it out, the population density that exists in China, and with in China kind of straddling the edge between third world but also the technology giant around their major cities. Yeah, I can see where you have this dense population around a major city that wants to be cutting edge, so they're going to have multiple devices. Yeah, they're gonna really bubble up on that number.
Just to give a review of the corporations that were hacked, Coca-Cola, New York Times.
And I found it funny, if you read the article about the Coca-Cola, when they were making a deal with Coca-Cola, and they were trying to figure out the negotiation strategy, so they hacked into Coca-Cola to get information about how they would negotiate.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind.
Yeah.
You got that much trouble over a contract.
To get that edge to take those things. Who's at fault? Is it the Chinese government? Is it corporations? Or is it our U.S. government who hasn't really taken this very seriously?
I don't think it's necessarily the government's fault so much as it's the industries. It's never one single point of failure, and it can never be one single point of failure. So if you leave your car unlocked and someone breaks into it, is it the police department's fault? So we all have to own our own responsibility in this. And everybody talks about it. We are losing this race quickly, and we need to close the gap.
I will say I'm a little refreshed to hear that we actually have an executive order now.
Yes.
Because I think it feels like we're going to take it more seriously, or at least more publicly, because it affects more than just the government agencies. It affects everybody, and it's going to affect everybody more and more as time goes by. In fact, it's a little scary if you think about how it's going to start affecting us very soon.
Yes.
Somebody needed to have the courage to step forward and at least light the fire. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. It's courageous. Steps like these are never easy because, there's a lot of privacy issues involved here. We just saw that with the drone issue. Well, it's okay to do in foreign countries, and it's the same thing here. This is going to be a degree of privacy. Not all countries have the same standard of privacy as well. It's going to be a very tricky road. There were two major pieces of legislation that tried to bridge this gap, and they failed. So now with the executive order, perhaps this is a good step forward. The other thing is that Mandiant and RSA both jumped on board and are using a strong language. RSA is a company that was hacked. They were hacked by APT1.
Right. Right.
And I've always appreciated the way that they came forward and said, we were hacked. This is what we did. This is what happened, and we're not going to let this happen again.
The biggest thing is pride will hurt us in the end. We all have to have a lessons learned, and we need to learn it from each other. And the only way you can do that is share the information. And what I mean by share the information, I don't mean by private industry. It's government, and it's on a global front. We can't just be partnered with other countries economically. We have to be able to share information across borders.
Right. Be a little more open.
Yeah.
So we've talked about who. Let's talk about how. In the article, they say spearfishing.
Low tech.
Yep. Low tech.
Low tech.
John's low tech.
It looks like his
prediction for
prediction's gonna
2013
come true. Yes.
I gotta say, I don't need to be able to program to trick my parents. Get it? I mean, it doesn't matter if I use object-oriented design or if I use a Java exploit.
Right.
I'm gonna trick my parents.
Yep.
So, and I only need to trick one of them. I know which one to trick. So
Let's go over some specific emails. U.S. stocks reverse loss as consumer staples energy gain zip. So this is pretty crafty, I think. This isn't your usual Nigerian prince or princess give me money scam. Here you have a zip and you're done. You unzip that and you are done.
I think what's even better about it is so somebody may hear that subject line go, well, I'll never click that. The subject lines are actually targeted to their audience. So they're going to craft a subject line that's more appropriate to the person to entice them to click. So someone that doesn't, are not involved in investing or watching the stocks, more than likely aren't going to get that subject line. Like we talked about the holiday season. Everybody, is an online shopper nowadays.
Right.
So a FedEx bomb you.
Yeah. Let's take it the other way. This is another one. U.S. Department of Commerce preliminary determines Chinese and Vietnamese illegally dumped wind towers in the United States stock. What if you cater that to the right person in the right government agency who goes, oh, we're already working on this, and they open it up.
Right. Right.
And then you're able to get the information that you want in that exact computer. So it's going to take some other kinds of reconnaissance to get the right person.
And I think what was interesting was the amount of time they found invested in this. It's not compromise, and then the smash and dash. This was not a smash and dash. This was
target.
I've got one.
Right, exactly.
And now I'm going to go quiet. I'll come back to you
Right,
later.
low and slow.
Yeah. So, and then they'll peak, and they'll peak, and they'll peak. And what was interesting in some of the technical data that was collected through the articles was one of the first things they were trying to do is steal email. So they were using things like GetMail. And they were trying to just establish what kind of information passes through this device just by watching your email.
Right.
And if you're
So they know who to target.
if you're passing the appropriate information, or who are you passing it to, maybe I can go try to get them. So.
And one of these in our show notes, is one of these links here, is going to tell you then what was downloaded. Trojans, backdoors, So then you're done. You're going to get the communication going back and forth until they get the right combination of being able to lift documents and or credentials.
Yeah. And it was literally a free for all. Once they established the connection, and then it's, did I establish the right connection? Even if they were able to pull something off the computer that may not have been their initial target, it's just the fact that they had the access.
As well as including technology blueprints, manufacturing processes, clinical trials. They also were able to hack human rights organizations, how does that benefit China?
A lot of people are critical about some of the things that are going on within China, and it's just, I think it's China's ability to either control the information or at least be able to counter any information that anyone's prepping against them. And this is my personal opinion. I think that's their attempt into the New York Times. The New York Times started to suspect activity after they were writing articles talking about some of the ethical issues within the Chinese government.
Yeah.
And I think it was really interesting that Mike pointed out on the article was, factories. They're going after factory, like patents or blueprints and just things that you would typically think that a state-sponsored, attack would go after, the factories.
And there were lots of headlines. Here's one. Chinese hackers blamed for intrusion at energy industry giant Telvent.
Yeah. The thing that scares me about this one is look what they're controlling. SCADA systems.
Mm-hmm.
So
Didn't we see SCADA attack?
yeah, we've seen a few of those.
Yeah.
But and again, that's outside the United States, right?
That is.
So it was our neighbors up north.
Yep.
Oh,
It's
yes.
Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
So just goes to show that nobody is outside of their potential targets. As much as we like to talk about things within the United States, it's a global.
Yeah. So you're the United States, and you finally put the gauntlet down for China, saying stop hacking, and China says, one of your power grids just went off the line. It must be your fault. We certainly don't have any government agencies that are doing any hacking. We don't know why your power grid went off the line.
Yeah.
That's a tough negotiating ploy.
That's absolutely correct.
That's just not negotiating a Coca-Cola contract. That is affecting people's
Yeah, this is
lives.
a little more scary than the Coca-Cola type thing.
That's right.
This is our infrastructure. You start taking over infrastructure, you can cripple the whole country.
But think of the lessons learned they're doing by getting away from government systems. Government systems tend to follow the model regardless of which agency. So I go after Coca-Cola. I get practice on a different system. I go after Telvent. I get practice on a different system. So they're almost honing their skill. So
Well, I believe it was they were looking for the SCADA designs from Telvent. So they're looking
for smart grid technologies.
Yeah, smart grid technologies. Maybe they want to develop their own. Maybe they're trying to do something internally. That's a lot of the cyber espionage for manufacturers is
You can
get
really-
it before you release it.
You can really cut down on your R&D if you can steal somebody else's R&D.
Right. Well, I mean, that just happened with the new Nerf gun that came out. Somebody stole that design, broke in and stole their design before they could release it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you get the competition gone. So.
China also has a lot of pride in the sense that they made everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't need outside help. I don't need an outside corporation. We're self-sufficient. So, I mean, there's a big pride factor going on there. So, if they have to reach out to Telvent to get a smart grid designed, then someone's going to say, well, how really smart are you? But if they go out and steal it and go, look what we made.
Mm-hmm.
So we should also mention probably that the break into the Telvent is attributed to the comment group as well.
Yeah. We seem to be following the same vein here in all these articles.
Right.
Yeah. Even the one Chinese hackers identity unmasked. This is a pretty good article, and you should definitely go to the show notes.
Actually, I can show that to you, like up on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually determined this was the hacker. And this is actually
Yes.
somebody from Dell whose entire life is in a locked room around a bunch of big fences, finding these people. And this guy messed up because he actually slipped up and put his real information in one location. This guy kept following back and finally started correlating things, found his real identity, found out that he owns a cell phone selling company and a company that does like fake likes on social sites and things like that.
Just to build up counts.
Yeah, to build up counts.
Yeah.
Counters, yeah.
So, and that apparently is his picture. It was on his Facebook, or not? It's their equivalent of Facebook over there.
Yeah.
It's called QQ, I think.
Right.
And
Yes.
so that's what was on his account. So somebody did find somebody.
So not only did we identify the main group APT1 and put him in the building, we found a guy.
Yeah.
Found a guy posing with his wife there, and we know. who
Looks
they
pretty
are.
normal to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the episode title is a cyber Cold War. Are we at Cold War with cyber technologies with China?
I think so.
I do.
And it's more than China. I don't want to point fingers just at China.
Yes.
When the traditional Cold War broke, I think everybody was they were eager for a good global peacetime. So I think people purposely turned a blind eye to certain things. And as technology grew and as technology progressed, our borders expanded and they started to clash, and that became our new front.
Right.
So we don't have a Berlin Wall; we have a cyber wall.
Yeah.
Well,
So
kind of.
yeah.
I don't want to think there's not really a wall
This
there.
wall's got a lot of
Yeah,
holes.
holes in it. But it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clickers.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it was something like this was further delayed with our recent conflicts within the Middle East. So that drew the attention away. But in the meantime, this monster never went away. So.
Yeah. So I made the analogy last week about the Cold War, the previous Cold War with the Soviet Union and the submarines. And I went back and I reviewed our episode, and I think I didn't make it as serious as it really was. You know, I had said, well, cyber technology it was kind of a tit for tat kind of thing, and you know, our subs were out there with the Soviet subs, and so one sub would seek up to the other and ping them with a sonar. I failed to mention, though, that these were nuclear-armed subs who had lost communication with the mainland.
Boomers.
So we don't know what was going on there. That could have been very serious. And I think that's why Mandia came out with this with such strong language. And I think it's why I think that the media is mad because they're getting hacked into, and there's very little they can do to stop it. And I think they're mad too. So I think this is why the strong language was put out there. And I think that's why the media picked up on it. And I think that's why the U.S. government picked on it as well.
I think Mandiant needs to do a little bit cleaner job of the smoking gun. The fact that China is not a country typically the size of Ohio like we see other European states or Korea, say. Or China is massive. China also has a lot of money, a lot of education. They are fighting this. They're pushing back hard. And Mandiant has done a good job, but I got to kind of wonder if they've done full disclosure, if they're holding back, and I don't think this is the time for them to hold back. I think they need to really throw the smoking gun down. You throw that down, and then there is no question, there is no doubt. You force them to face it.
Does the U.S. government have their own team of hackers?
Oh, I'm sure we do.
Are they nearby in Fort Meade, Maryland? Do they have their own little white buildings over there?
Well, there's some things going on in Fort Meade, but I don't know if it's where the team actually is located.
We have little white buildings everywhere.
Yeah.
My point is that all governments have these things. All governments, as you pointed out, there's other governments involved. It's just that.
And if they don't, they say they don't, they're lying.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah.
Information is the key.
Yeah.
However you gather it, information is gold.
Well, let's finish it up. What can corporations do? What will they do? And will they do anything?
I think the biggest lesson learned on all of this is user education.
Yeah, that's where it starts. I mean, the biggest problem is between this chair and this keyboard. Pepcat, yeah.
Problem.
Yeah. It's amazing. We have all these technology software and programs and analytics. We can even judge by tweets which state is the happiest and which is the saddest. But these hacks depend on the user not clicking on email.
Yeah. It's the point is already proven. You can build conceptually the best layer security.
Yeah, but it's one thing they can always get through it, and that's the person.
Exactly.
Because if you don't let them get through it, they're not going to no use to use it for them.
Why write a code to evade firewalls? Why write a code to evade IDS? Why write a code to evade, appliances like FireEye that do modeling and patterning? When all I gotta do is write a code to trick you.
Right.
Well, I think we covered that pretty well. I'm hoping that we'll get some feedback we got quite a bit of feedback last week's episode, and I hope we get lots of comments on that because we'd like to see what all our viewers are thinking right now as well. So let's go on to our usual suspects exploits. It seems like we talk about Adobe. New Adobe PDF Reader 0 day and Acrobat found exploited in the wild. Anybody shocked?
No shock here.
So
This is like a weekly thing for us.
Yes, it is.
It's either this or Java or both.
Yeah. I'm not going to cut and paste in the show notes anymore. I'm just going to leave the same exploit.
Yeah.
Just don't even remove them.
Yeah.
So this was actually reported about 6 days ago. So
what we reported last week, I don't think they had seen it in the wild. Somebody had found the vulnerability. Now it's actually in the wild.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And it is like Mike says, there's a big difference between somebody knowing about the exploit versus somebody actually exercising.
Yes.
But it doesn't take long after it's known.
Oh no.
That's
so.
right.
And the worst thing is the same person that's probably telling Adobe about it, they're probably selling it. So, so what about PDFs? How many people go out there and say, well, I'm going to secure my Word doc in a PDF? You want to preserve.
Most of them don't even think about it.
So, they're going to throw it in a PDF. So
yeah,
they're pretty common. So
they think PDF is safe.
Yeah.
Because nobody can change it.
That's right.
But,
they can't change it.
Yeah.
But now I have an essential tool that it maintains the integrity of my information on a document. Now I'm afraid to open it.
Right.
And Trend Micro has done another good job of analyzing this, and what they do is they do a pretty good job of trying to write towards end users with light technical skills.
Right.
And what they say is it's safe to use PDFs, and they did an excellent breakdown of it. And basically the 0 day exploits two types. So you have what's called an in-browser PDF versus an out-browser or out-of PDF browser PDF. So the in-browser PDF is usually web-based. So people that are hosting a PDF document on a website, that would be your in-browser where your actual browser will open it up. The biggest thing is to just stay fully patched. And even then, it's still not 100% because it's a 0 day.
Right.
0 days.
Or it's one of the 0 days.
One of the 0 days. But it's one of the things that you can reduce or minimize your risk. But in browsers are to me, a little more dangerous because of the fact that fully patched systems are exposed to 0 days, hence the name 0 day.
Yeah.
Then you have what's called the outer browser, which somebody actually delivers you SneakerNet through a thumb drive or through an email, and you pull the document locally to your PC. So that's where it becomes application dependent.
Yeah.
So it's always said Adobe Reader, and so somebody will go out and say, well, fine, then I won't use Adobe Reader. And what Trend is very good at pointing out is you're still not safe using a third-party reader.
Yeah, and that was something that I was not aware of when you got here and you said about that it affects third-party readers. I was thinking it only affected the Adobe Reader, but you're right, it affects third-party readers as well.
I think it's because Adobe's almost synonymous with PDF when there are other applications that do PDF.
So what about smaller businesses? Like, what comes to mind are real estate agents who do a lot of business with PDFs back and forth and back and forth. They probably don't have tech support. What are they going to do? Are they going to be sure that their documents are going to be are not going to infect them or cause a compromise?
Or worse yet, infect the customer.
Yeah.
If you're sending
That's right.
back and forth the documents for closing and stuff like that,
And
it may easily affect somebody.
It may depend on who your customer is, on how dangerous that can be.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There was a recommendation that from the time that a 0 day is presented till the time that a patch is deployed. That if you don't have a good technical group to protect you, that you might want to refrain from using it.
Right.
And in the end, it's the old school abstinence is your best protection.
Yeah. Yeah. And the smaller the business, the fewer layers that they're going to have. Yeah. How about Apple provided Java plugin removed with software update?
Well, yesterday or the day before, they released the basically they're taking the Java plugin out of the web browser. So what they're doing is they're making you now go to Oracle themselves to actually download the Java and install it. Because I guess the thing is they don't want to be responsible, so you have to do it on your own. I've noticed that I can no longer run Java unless I want to install it. No, I haven't installed it yet on my Mac, but I think for them it's like we don't want to maintain our own Java no more. Let's let Adobe be the responsible party, good or bad for that matter.
Yeah.
But it's usually a safe practice to do that. A lot of people will use mirror sites.
Yeah, but mirror sites can affect it just as easy. So
by them to force you to Oracle to go directly to Oracle, it's not an Apple product, so it's an Oracle product. So put the onus back on them.
Right.
So we even saw that Google Docs is susceptible to exploits. Oxford University is now blocking Google Docs due to phishing attacks. So did they block it because they can't stop it?
Well, I mean, this is not a new concept for Google Docs because it so easily allows you to create a form that's used for phishing and get information from somebody, and basically it goes into a spreadsheet. So you're basically helping them fill out a spreadsheet of personal information. I just think that it's gotten so out of control that the college basically has said, okay, we're going to stop it for now.
I asked Mike too, is just from a standpoint of Google's offering a service, it's not Google that's attacking you. It's Google that's actually victim to people taking advantage of a service they're trying to provide. Does Oxford, can they huff up and do this? And
Right. I mean, it's not Google's fault that somebody's doing this. I mean, their service is good for what it's for, but it can be used for bad things. Like just anything can be used for bad things. It doesn't have to be just Google Docs.
Yeah.
And he reminded me about Oxford being its own independent private network they can control.
Yes. And it's a research institution, so there could be some very valuable data.
Yeah, I know in the article it was saying that they were actually getting credentials for the machines in the network using this phishing technology, this phishing technique. So it's not like it's even personal information. It's access to their systems, which that in itself is a little bit of a scary thing too. So I can kind of see their point wanting to drop that.
And this isn't anything that a couple of years back we had a big push on our network to protect against Facebook with the Osama bin Laden headlines. You would get a lot.
Right.
Facebook came through.
Yeah, right. Whenever he was killed.
One of the things they were leveraging was a Google Doc click into. We see it also on URL shorteners to try to also hide the end results, and basically you land on one of these shared docs where give us your information, we'll go out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just an easy way of organizing the phishing.
Now, if I do remember, Google Docs was fairly quick on getting that shut down. But, you have that time of where they don't shut it down. I guess it's a numbers game, how many people can actually get you infected with the right information that you want.
It was something like on one of the first episodes we did where it's a percentage game. And something, I think, if I remember right, it was like 2.9%. But
that's a lot.
Yeah,
think about it. It's like basically 3 people out of 100.
Yeah.
Will fill out the information and send it in. So that's a lot.
How many people use Google? And at a rate of 2.9%. So.
Yeah, well, you don't have to use Google for Google Docs for this particular thing. Anybody can go there and fill out the form and put the information in.
Right.
So.
The next headline: Facebook, Twitter, Apple hack sprung from iPhone developer forum. So, what's the culprit here?
Well, basically the site was hacked. JavaScript hacked.
Java.
And it just so happens that the Apple developers read this because, well, the Apple developers read this and comment in there, as well as do a lot of other developers, including Twitter, which is why the infection was at Facebook.
Facebook, Twitter.
Or Facebook and Twitter. Yeah. Okay, yeah. They all probably have engineers in here reading these forums and have all gotten infected by the same Java 0 day.
Yeah.
So.
And we've talked about this before. It can lead to theft of Twitter usernames and passwords. And we've talked about the dangers. That, it seems just an annoyance, but that can be a fairly dangerous thing.
It's actually happening more often, especially with celebrity accounts. Some people will call it a Twitter bomb, where somebody was able to take your credentials and then they just basically discredit you by just going crazy on your Twitter account and just spamming as many messages as they can. So I know a lot of people usually find out from their friends after the fact, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, what was it you just sent me? Yeah. So it's important to note that as of yesterday, this site was still infected.
Yeah.
So in the site's name, just so if you go to it, you should be checking yourself out.
Yeah.
Where was it? I don't remember. Do you have the name? Oh, iPhone.devsdk.com.
Yeah.
Was eluding me. Mm-hmm. So if you do use that, I would recommend you scan your machine. Definitely, don't stop using the site after it's fixed. Wait.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be some kind of big notification somewhere on the screen saying that we fixed our issue.
Yeah.
Especially considering how much public they're getting out of this.
Now, the forum says mobile developers who have used the forum in the last few months should check their systems for signs of malware.
So Apple's also gotten a little proactive on this, which is good. So what Apple has done is Apple has issued an update to Java that contains a toolkit to help protect Mac users against the exploit within Java that was used against their own developers.
So Apple did themselves versus...
Why wait for somebody else when you have the ability, right?
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. This is an oldie but goodie from Krebs. DDoS attack on bank hid $900,000 cyber heist. Do you remember when we reported on this one?
Yeah, but I think it's gotten more details since.
It's much more detailed. Back then, when we reported on it, it said, well, we know that it happened Christmas Eve. It was a cyber attack, but we don't know who, what, or why, or how much. So now they've got some pretty big details on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. $900,000, which isn't a lot, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny how, first of all, they named the bank. I'm not going to name the bank on the show here, but they named the bank in the article. Basically, they had gotten into another account holder and via malware and transferred money and hid that whenever they basically waited until the next business day and then started DDoSing the bank so that the business couldn't log in and see that they had $900,000 taken out of their account. So
which delayed the response, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Delayed the response a little farther.
This might be just a personal assessment, but I find that bank websites are down a lot. And I can see why if a bank says, oh, I can't get in today, well, or a business says, I can't get into the bank today, well, it must be down. So definitely very clever.
It was good because of the fact that it was a multi-tiered attack.
Right.
It wasn't a single piece of malware that was identifiable. It was several different pieces that they're still not clear on the origins or the initial infection vector. They do know a component that more than likely, just because of our past experience, may have been used in assisting them taking the money, which was a Zeus Trojan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In this all came from Krebs Security, and he talked to one of the money mules. That's how he found out about it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what kind of friends do you have? Whoops.
Oops.
I'm saying, like, what kind of friends do you have if you have friends that are money mules?
Yeah.
Or what kind of contacts do you have? So, but it was interesting reading. They had 26 different money mules, all of them taking different amounts of money.
62.
Oh, I'm sorry, 62.
62. Yeah, up to
Dyslexic.
62. I mean, but so 62. So
right.
62 over 900,000, which makes it easier to hide as opposed to one lump sum.
That's right.
Right. They said the average was between $4,000 and $9,000 a person, but some of them amounts were ranging from $80,000 to $100,000. So wouldn't you kind of question somebody if they came to you and said, "I'll pay you, I don't know, a couple $1,000s to fly over here with this case and or carry this much money?" And they said the money mules were actually getting the money put into their accounts, and they're pulling it out and taking it somewhere. And this person says they were unknowingly tricked. Okay, I don't know, but if somebody decides they're going to give you $10,000 in your account and you're going to pull it out and go somewhere with it, something's wrong.
Yeah. So, what are the poor bank technical support? What are they supposed to do? Now, we are talking about a highly regulated industry here. There are lots of standards, lots of audits, technical audits imposed on banks.
Well, I mean, it technically wasn't probably the bank's responsibility because they weren't the one that was hacked. It was the user at the company whose money was stolen that was hacked, and information taken. And apparently, it was done from her computer as well. Yeah, that's the way to make it sound.
They basically had remote access from her device that she wasn't aware that the transactions were going in, and then the DDoS.
So technically, the bank wasn't at fault in this case. It was that they got in through a user, right? Another user.
Yeah.
So we see a trend growing.
And this said it was the Zeus Trojan. Of course, we talk about Zeus all the time. So.
Here's an interesting one. Mike pointed this one out to me. ShmooCon Fire Talks 2013.
Yeah, no, I've actually gone and watched a couple of these videos, and they're really cool. I mean, if you're really into the low-level hacking type things.
Yep.
Actually, I think I might have it up here on my screen. And you can see some of the videos. Here's one, Black Swan, a video on Black Swan. When did the smartphone pen test framework? So you see in the background, they're showing how you use Backtrack to get into mobile devices. That was fun. Yeah, that was a fun one. That was kind of neat watching that. That's one of them that I watched because I was interested. And then the Shell Squid, Open Terminal. So basically it's, hacker tools and things like that. But it's a good thing to learn because you see how people do this kind of stuff. Yeah. And when you see how it's done, it helps you protect yourself. So, and your company or whoever.
How closely does this align with like Black Hat?
Well, it is Black Hat. It's the tools the Black Hatters use. But if you're doing it for good, they consider you a white hat or ethical hacker. Yeah. So.
Because they don't they have an annual Black Hat conference in Vegas?
Oh yeah. That's a whole different. I mean, Black Hat is it's still fun to go to because you get to see all the newest hacks and technology. But it's good from the point of view of us too, trying to protect companies because we know what other people are using now. So it's not necessarily just for hackers. Although if you go there, don't use your cell phone. Turn it off.
Yes. Yeah. Turn it off.
Turn off anything electronic when you're in there because otherwise you're going to end up on the wall of shame.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, this is my favorite Black Hat story. 2 years ago, they had it in Las Vegas, and someone was able to put 2 fake ATM machines in the convention hall. And got, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I just thought it was ironic that they would put 2 fake ATM machines in there.
Yeah, so they actually have a whole group of people that all they're doing is trying to break into things while you're there. Yeah. And if they break into something in your computer or your laptop or your cell phone or whatever, you end up on the wall of shame. And there's a big wall of shame that your information is just posted up on the wall. So when you go there, I mean, I actually...
Do you get your money back? Do you get your ID back or anything like that?
I don't think it's on the wall until it goes away.
I guess it's one of the risks of going, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think you can return someone's pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to walk in there with no electronics. So
that's pretty funny.
I've even had people say they took in their 4G and somehow they got hacked into the 4G. That's like their MiFi.
Yeah.
Oh, their hotspots.
Yeah, so they're trying to be safe.
We'll have to see if we can all go this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be fun.
Here's the next headline. iOS 6.1, hack lets users see your phone app and places calls.
So I know Mike is our resident expert.
So I've watched the videos, and I'm having a hard time getting it to work.
And this is on YouTube, right?
Yeah, watch one.
The how-to is on the YouTube.
Well, yeah, and CNET did one, and a couple of people did one now too. It's very hard to do. It takes some practice. I haven't gotten it to work yet. Huh. Now, supposedly, there's already a fix in the works. I don't know if it's in beta. My phone hasn't said I need to update it yet, but I heard today that they actually had a fix out for it, probably in beta at this point, that would take care of that. And this is actually something that's happened before. This is a reoccurrence of an old issue, so I'm kind of curious how that happens.
6.1?
It'll be 6.11 that comes out.
Just recently, right?
Yeah, just recently.
Yeah. I gotta say, I had a little bit of issues with 6.1 on my phone going in, so it makes me kind of wonder if this is the first of maybe a few other.
Well, knock on wood, so far I've had good luck with 6.1.
I actually had a difficult time reestablishing Signal after. And
Oh, really?
I almost lost it for a half day.
I had no problem. What was the version of the iPhone you had, maybe? Because I'm on a 5, and it could be the issue, maybe.
Mine's an old. I don't have the newest.
Yeah, somewhere that's part of the problem.
So last week we hinted that Anonymous was planning a February 14th, a Valentine's Day, attack on Goldman Sachs. What happened to that, Mike?
They were stood up.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up. So, I mean, that was either a threat by not really anonymous, or they were just trying to make an open threat to do something else to change. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it did nothing happen. So
I guess that's one of the drawbacks of having an organized organization. So you may schedule an attack and maybe nobody shows up, or
Someone slept in?
yeah, somebody slept in. Yeah. So we could also have this kind of ties in what we reported on last week. There was an exploit also on the LA Times. So if we're keeping track here, we've got the New York Times, the LA Times, we've got the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, and they say that's been happening for at least 6 weeks.
yeah, and this one's a little different though, because the other ones they were trying to get information out of them, and they were on the internal network. This one, they actually defaced the website and put a hack on the website, so it actually affected their customers. It was placed on the part of the website that gets 18 million visitors a month.
Huh.
So initially, when they were contacted by Krebs on Security, they told them that no, it's not malware. It's actually the Google ad server having problems, which they eventually came back and said that was an unrelated issue. But yeah, so this one actually affects users, and it's been on there, they said, since December 23rd. So that's a long time to have an exploit on your website, especially when you're getting 18 million visitors a month to that site.
I think it was unacceptable for them to even try to deny it. To be able to go out there to your own site and see for it yourself, seconds nowadays, literally seconds. For the initial discovery, okay, that's understandable. But after someone came up to you for initial discovery, the validation is there. And for anyone to come back and go, I don't see it, that's just beyond.
Yeah, that was just deniability.
Yeah.
So
I think if they really knew who the person was that was calling them, that it was Krebs, they probably would have listened a little bit better.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example of something that we've briefly brushed upon last week with malvertising. Except for this wasn't malvertising. This is a great example of a watering hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. It's a watering hole.
This is a watering hole. So watering hole exploits were taken from times where in Africa, where animals go and stock watering holes for other prey to come up and drink. And as they approach the watering hole, they need the water to survive. And then the prey wait. The predators wait lying in plain sight for someone to come to a watering hole. So a watering hole is somebody that goes to a legitimate site, like the LA Times, where they were managed to compromise the site and they dropped malware in plain sight on a legitimate website. So someone is going to the LA Times for information, for an update, to review information, and they get attacked. So I was waiting for one of these, and I think this is a really good example of what a classic watering hole would be.
Right, and these people probably didn't know that they even got infected. Yeah. If it was a good exploit, it probably just sits in the background.
Yeah. Okay, here's something that we really haven't touched base on yet, but we've implied it. So you're a technology professional, and you discover your site is infecting people, and it's infected. If you clean it, well, then you won't know who did it or why they were doing it. Do you take the risk of trying to track it back? And we've seen some good examples here. Mandiant came out. They've been tracking. They knew who it was. Obviously, they took their time. They were able to contain, maybe, to know that APT won. And finally, they tracked it all the way back to the building. If you're an IT professional, do you clean it, don't worry about it, or do you try to figure out who's doing what to you?
That's a tough one. In this case, that is affecting the end user, a customer, ultimately a customer. I think you need to take action quickly. If you can grab a backup, like if they could just go to that section of the website, copy it to another folder, and then fix it, that's probably the best thing. So you can determine ultimately what the issue was. So you're going to lose some forensic data when you do that. But if you keep enough of it to be able to track it back and see, the other thing is you need to know what's going on so you can fix it in other places in your own site, because they could be infecting more than one location in the whole site.
Now, the one thing we kept saying about the New York Times, they really weren't sure if they were clean or not, or not really sure how long it had been.
But they were pretty sure that was only internal to them, not necessarily. That's a whole different thing then, if you're not affecting the customer. That's your decision from a business perspective. Are they getting too close to something that's company confidential or brand impacting, things like that?
I think that's what bought Mandy at time was the fact that, and like you said, it's brand name impacting. You have to make a decision on, are we going to reach a point that we just can't recover from it? And if it's customer facing, then I think you need to move a lot quicker.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, you don't want to impact the customers, and you need to be open with them, saying that you could have gotten this. And they did a very good job at saying this part of the website you went to was where it was infected. So if you've been there, go make sure that you're clean.
Yep. And it's just it's where our skill set comes in. Yeah. To gather enough data for the leadership to make the proper decision, to do the risk assessment, to do an impact assessment, and that's where we earn our keep.
It can be a slippery slope, though. You really have to gauge about what data is at risk.
Yeah. Right, even if it's internal and they're getting close to customer data, whether it be personal or PII type data or credit card type data or anything like that, you need to take action fairly quickly because you need to keep the customer safe, because that just opens you up to, not to mention brand impact, but it also opens you up to a whole bunch of other lawsuit possibilities. That's so you definitely need to take care of the customer.
There's always concern of you go out and you protect the customer, but if I don't close the door, what's stopping them from coming back in? And that's where you said,
which is why you try to get the copy.
Backup copies. Right. Try to sift through your logs. There's data there. You just have to know. What's the appropriate data.
Of course, if you're a good IT person, you should have a backup somewhere, right?
That's right.
You should be able to restore from. That's the right way to do it, is to restore from a backup. Yeah. So, especially when it's been 6 weeks old, you should be able to have a decent backup by then. If it just happened if it just happened in the last day or so, it's questionable whether it actually went through the backup process. But
So our next headline: Facebook computers compromised by zero-day Java exploit. So it looks like the engineers at Facebook.
So this is the same one we just talked about a little bit ago about Apple engineers. The same site infected both groups of people. Yeah. Both of them visiting this mobile site.
It was the same 0 day.
So exactly the same.
Yeah, and this is the difference between somebody reporting a 0 day versus a 0 day being exercised in the wild. And I kind of find it really interesting that the people being exploited with this 0 day happen to be within our site. They're IT professionals.
Right. And what I found interesting about this one was, Apple didn't say how they found it. Their engineers found this, but this one says that it was discovered by suspicious domains in the DNS service. So that tells me that Facebook has a proactive internal security department. Yeah. Which makes you feel a little bit better, about.
I gotta say, kudos to them on their test that we reported.
That was last week. Yeah, last week. And this just to say, this isn't related to that. This is a completely different thing. Yeah. Last week was a test. This is an actual real infection.
And they just really are giving me the impression that they're doing the right stuff.
Yeah, they're being proactive about it.
But it's so much. You know what I mean? And you can only get to so much information.
They could just take some of that and put it into the user side of the website. So that's always scary, a little bit scary.
Wait a minute. I'll be able to feed my cows in Farmville, right? That hasn't been hacked. I want to have the same amount of cows that I had when I left.
Does Farmville still exist?
I don't know.
Because I haven't gotten a Farmville invite for a long time. This week's Security 101 is on Facebook. And I even mentioned in there, how often, when did I get the last Farmville thing? Because I was showing how you can block certain apps that are annoying. Yeah. And I started thinking to myself, when did I get the last Farmville invite? So I've had certain people in my past that I didn't want to unfriend them, but were sending me so much garbage. So I walked through that. That's Security 101. It comes out tomorrow. Yeah. So this is tomorrow.
So the next headline, New Crimeware-as-a-Service Market Thriving. So as you pointed correctly, Mike, that not all hackers are in China, although some hackers here are in China.
Yeah.
But they're also here in the U.S., Netherlands, Germany, Russia, China, and Malaysia. So they have a new tool. And this is going to be able to streamline a lot of their hacking tools.
Yeah, and you know, what's funny is this is no different than software as a service or hardware as a service. It's just now it's malware as a service.
That's right.
So it's just a whole different way of doing business.
It's a new business model.
You know, we've talked about the business models before about behind malware. And we probably should sometime do a show on the different business models because I think that people would be amazed at how many different ways they make money on the internet by leasing and renting malware and stuff like that.
Yeah, I gotta say that they're you want to see some cutting edge marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
You watch the malware guys because
it's crazy.
Their one and only job is to slip and dodge and trick you. And you know, I'll tell you what, if they weren't good at it, it wouldn't be this thriving business. And it is a thriving business.
Yeah, and you know, the amazing thing to me is this business model. They make a lot of money, but how are they getting the money without somebody tracking them? You know, I've often wondered that. Actually, I mean, I would love to somebody to tell me how they're doing it, just for my own curiosity's sake, of how do you get people to give you money without somebody from like the Dell guy tracing back your bank account to finding you.
I mean, you know, some of the numbers you see out there. This isn't like 50 cents here, 50 cents there.
Well, no, you're worth $5 on the internet right now.
So
your PII and your credit card information and all that stuff right now. For John is worth $5.
That's right.
So that's what you can buy it for. So
but I mean
that's not a big business model. You know, their business model now is they're basically renting you everything you need. You say, I want 10,000 credit card numbers. You go to them for the service, and they give you the data you want using their hardware. You do nothing but pay them for the money. Yeah. So it's just using their servers. Yeah.
And they don't even download the malware at all.
Yeah, you don't got to install the malware. I mean, typically in the past, you've either bought that or you rented a botnet to distribute your stuff. Now you basically say, I want 10,000 of these, and they go and they do it for you.
This is probably related to, we've reported that several botnet cases had come up, that several governments had successfully prosecuted botnet network owners. So this will probably feed into that business model because you take the risk out of it for them.
Does it there we go. Yeah, it is in there. So it says the operators of these services typically operate in small groups of 5 to 8 people.
Yeah, I found it interesting. They called out the U.S., the Netherlands, Germany, Russia, and China.
Yeah.
Yes or no? I mean, because if you look at that, those are technology strong states or countries.
Right. Yeah.
With
good infrastructure.
I would almost say, and like you said, how, especially in the U.S. where everything is heavily monitored, especially money transactions.
Right.
You know, how are you slipping that money?
Yeah, that's what I've often wondered, how somebody else would track you by how you're getting the money. If you use PayPal, they can find you by your PayPal account. Yeah. You know.
Umbrella Corps, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure it's not in a U.S.-based account. It's somewhere we can't track. But the other companies, the other countries can probably track inside their country. You know, money transfers. And I just don't know. I just always thought it was interesting.
So this is the old problem for criminals. Okay, I can steal the money, but how do I launder that money? How do I hide that money? How do I
even get it and use it?
Yeah, and you know, the other article we talked about, money mules. You know, you basically give money to some people. You transfer money to their account, they go get it out. I don't know why somebody would not think in their head the guy's going to be $10,000 and he's going to pay me $1,000 to deliver to him. Something's wrong.
What's $500 or $600 of $9,000? You know, the average is up to $9,000 per transaction.
Right.
I mean, that's dropping the bucket, right?
So I mean, I can see it doing that way. I'm not sure if we've talked about this. Maybe we already went over this, but there was another. Oh no, the police thing. Have we gotten to that yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yep.
It talks about what they did there was they actually had an organization that would transfer in Spain. They transfer the money to Spain. They convert to something else that would then convert it back to money, and then they'd go back over to Russia. So it was like, you know, it's
right.
It's a process, but
here's the next headline: Cyber espionage campaign against John. Help me. The Uyghurs community. It's the ethnic group that's in China, targeting Mac OS X systems. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
I think it's Uyghurs. I think.
Why would John know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time spelling cat.
Yeah. So here what it is. It's against the community. It's an act. We've seen this before, and I don't think we've reported on it yet. But what it is, it's a campaign, and we know that this one is Chinese based. That is specifically against this community.
Right, and it's actually targeting Mac OS users,
Yes.
OS users too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar with the article. But the fact that it's targeting a community, and not just targeting a community, but targeting a specific OS, were they able to leverage a vulnerability across the OS that they're just real familiar and comfortable with? Or I wouldn't think would an entire community just happen to use all Macs, so that's the best chance of success?
It's targeting the Mac OS X, but it's Office based, the doc files.
Oh, the doc. Okay.
Right.
Yep. And the next one is a vulnerability in BlackBerry Enterprise Server components that processes images could allow remote code execution. So we were just talking about what happens when you go to the Black Hat conference and your phone. So this is something that you would see there, isn't it?
Yeah. This is more of the enterprise server. This is pretty much, but yeah, it's very closely related.
Yep. And then we also have OnRamp, a free open source ad server from OpenX gets shut down. So some more criminal activity has been shut down here, hasn't
Right.
it?
Actually, I think OpenX went down and finally said, "Okay, we give up.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it anymore."
I mean, but it goes to speak to the whole extended malvertising attack where it's just easier to embed an ad, an open ad, than to try to constantly probe a website for its weakness. And the risk of probing a site for its weakness to exploit the site, to create a watering hole, presents a greater risk to exposing yourself, as opposed to let me pepper ads everywhere that just dynamically adjust, and then it's easier to hide. It's more obfuscated.
Yep. And before we go on to our trendy malware and phishing headlines, you can get Security Decoded delivered automatically to your favorite device by subscribing to our netcasts at your favorite podcast directory like iTunes. Also, subscribe to your YouTube channel to get regular updates as well. If you listen to Stitcher Radio, subscribe to use to get Security Decoded automatically every week. We also have a Twitter account that you can follow to get the latest news and information. You can find all of the details by going to Security Decoded TV. If you have TiVo, you can watch us by getting a season pass to Security Decoded. More ways to watch and listen are on the way too. So trending malware phishing. The first one is BlackBerry. It seems like we're picking on BlackBerry this week, aren't we? BlackBerry spam with a backdoor. So it looks like we're getting spam messages targets BlackBerry users only.
And this kind of had to have been expected with BlackBerry making the major announcement that they're getting away from the trademark.
They're going to be targeted again.
That they are no longer going to be referred to as RIM. They're going to be referred to as BlackBerry, which is a trademark name that they use for their mobile devices. That has a lot of notoriety, and so the new push of the phone, the new push of the operating system, the recent change of the name, they kind of almost screamed for someone to come look at them.
See what happens when you get popular again and you get innovative? Yeah.
That's right. Can become targeted again.
That's right. Yeah. You download an open attached zip, which sometimes wasn't easy with the old BlackBerry. It's a very unexciting event. You're sitting there sometimes going, did I just download this? What happened here? So I guess maybe they fixed that feature in the new version, and now it's being exploited.
Yeah, and that's the typical avenue is in the attempt of somebody trying to make our lives more convenient. They're also going to
with convenience becomes a lot more dangers.
Yeah.
And risks.
And that actually drops a backdoor on your mobile device.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of dangerous because of the fact that it's a mobile device, so that thing just constantly will stay connected.
Yeah.
As opposed to, if you're on an actual computing device like a laptop that relies on either you establishing through a wireless network or a hardwire. Cell phones, all you have to do is be on, radio on, and within range. You you're talking away.
That's right. Yeah. This article comes from Trend Micro. It's a very good article. I suggest reading this one, and we've actually seen this one in the wild. But the headline is "Same Old, Brand New Malware Tricks." So this one says, got some sleepers out there. So you're going to scan and scan and scan, and it's going to know you're scanning. It's just going to go active. Then it's going to go to sleep again. Very hard to catch.
Right, and I think what they're trying to say is the old malware has been modified slightly to just sleep and hide itself better.
Mm-hmm.
So
We went through a period though where it was rush, almost a brute force tactic. First they try to hide, then they said, well, why hide? I'm going to get in you so fast and grab what I need that, by the time you see me, I'm already done. And so it was this really noisy attack. And with the reemergence of advanced persistent threats, you're starting to see, trending malware where they model that, where getting in is just good enough, and then I'm going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And when I need you, I'll wake
Right.
up.
And you know where we first saw this? Stuxnet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And now we know that Stuxnet was state-sponsored as well, but not China, right?
right.
No.
Yeah, a couple other governments that we know, right? And so this has really taken off. It's really going to be hard on vendors like Trend Micro. What are they going to do if they can't see active infections?
And that's where we discuss things like, the old school way of signature base is just not going to cut it. And we found that even if you can identify some of these, and we have identified several of these and submitted them for signatures, it's the fact that they go to sleep.
Right.
And if they're not actively working, not actively talking, it's easy for a real-time engine just to miss them.
Right. Because real-time engines look at what's going on. If nothing's going on, it's not going to find anything. So
That's right.
So, and I gotta say that it's a very, very fitting name to the article, and same old brand new trick.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many times we've given you code that you've watched it, and we've been able to reverse code, and we've seen it. And I mean, it's almost immediate. You see a sleep component.
right. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we end this with some good news. Mike, this is the one you were referring to before. Key figure in police ransomware activity nabbed. And I like to see that. But this is the one where ransomware is just horrible. It's noisy, and you can't do anything with your PC if you're infected.
It's tough. I tell you, it is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that is more than just one. The one that they are talking about, the key figure, is actually from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. But there was also 10 other individuals that were in part of the money laundering component of the gang's operations, which is what I mentioned earlier.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They managed the monetization of the Pay Safe card, which I think is like PayPal, or very similar to PayPal.
Yeah.
And they got vouchers, received as payment in the scam, and then they would exchange these vouchers for money, and then in Spain, and send that back to the main guy in Dubai.
Right. Well, it's good. So at least they have gotten it, and hopefully we'll see a reduction in ransomware.
I think this is where you really need to get loud on this one. Everybody tends to think as cybercrimes is faceless. You start putting faces out there. Start showing some people there are consequences attached.
Well, we've actually seen some faces tonight. We've seen the actual guy with his family.
Yeah, that's right.
We've seen the building where they work.
We put a face to malware today.
We know what to call them. We've had several names, and now
that's right.
we're getting closer. Yeah.
I bet his wife doesn't know what he does.
Yeah, she does.
I bet she does now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it comes down to our topic this week.
Before we go into this, we want to go back to last week a little bit. Something we didn't cover. Last week we actually had a question from Christian Fellows of Eugene, Arkansas, who was asking us about what's the best certification to get. And we went through all the certifications, but we never answered his question.
Yeah.
So this week John says, you know what? We never answered this question.
Yeah.
So, and it really depends if you want to go management or if you want to go technical. If you want to go management, I would probably think, I guess, CISM or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be the place to start. Don't go the whole CSSP right away. It's a lot to take in. But if you're going to go technical, probably the Security Plus.
Yeah,
We kind of decided with
that's what
Security
I'd
Plus.
say.
It's deep technical, but it's very broad, and it gives you. For when you do that, you'll figure out where you want to focus. I think you'll be able to focus more where you want.
You know, if you take a look at some of the articles that we looked at tonight, you know, there is a management component, but there's very much a technical side to this. You want
Right.
to know how and why this is happening to you.
And what it comes down to, and the CISM in particular focuses on this, is the incident management.
Yeah.
So, what do you do in the case where is a customer facing? You need somebody to be able to manage that by keeping security in focus for both the customer and the business as well. So there is definitely a management side to it, especially for incident management.
Yeah.
So, and we also didn't tell them where to go to get this. And today I talked with Currie. She's from the Infosec Institute, and she said we could definitely tell them. That's where I get most of my training.
Yep.
Infosec. I know John's done Infosec. I think you've done Infosec, right?
Later this year.
Yeah. So
I think it's best to you gotta ask around, but you also have to take the answers with a grain of salt. So I work with Mike and Dennis beyond what we do here at Security Decoded, and our personalities, our way that we think, the way that we pursue some of our issues day in and day out at work. So I take Mike and Dennis's opinion with a lot of value because we are very similar in the way that we grasp ideas and grasp techniques, as opposed to my brother, who is also in the industry. I can most definitely tell you that his train of thought and his method for learning and mine don't line up. So just as much as what cert you're going to do, really invest in the Institute. And Infosec is great.
yeah, I've always had good luck with them.
Infosec is just great. For the amount of time versus the amount of information that I gained out of there, it was more than a cert. I got to tell you, I pulled more than a cert out of the training. And so they are good. But do your research also on your institutes.
Yeah, some people do SANS too. I mean, my preference has been always Infosec. I just like them better. They're more personable.
Yeah.
So SANS is always a bigger group, less personable.
Right.
The fun ones, I mean, all I've done with them are fun, but the reverse engineering or the ethical hacking, they'll stay as late as you want to teach you whatever you want. So they go above and beyond, typical training.
Plus, they do capture the flag.
They do capture every night. Capture the flag.
That's right.
Yep, that's fun too.
And that's some stuff that you can actually use in real life.
Oh yeah, that's fun. Yeah, that was part of the fun.
Yep.
So sorry, Christian, we didn't answer your question last week. So
I gotta say, Mike and I were talking about that, and we're like, that was great. And by the time we were done, I kind of looked over at Mike and I was like, we're missing something.
yeah.
Okay, for this week's weekly main topic, let me tell you about the inspiration for this. I was out to dinner with some friends that I hadn't seen for a while, and I have a friend, Linda, who had gotten a new Android phone. So she had the phone a couple days, and then she went to go answer a phone call, and there's a picture of porn coming at the phone. She can't answer the phone, of course, because this picture keeps popping up and popping up and popping up. Finally gets rid of it. Well,
didn't take long to get infected, did it?
yeah, right. Wants to send a text.
What me?
Can't send a text because now different pictures and just exploding pictures of porn. Can't use the phone. So she has to take it back to the Verizon store, and this is kind of embarrassing for her because she has to go, hey, see what's on my phone? Can you get this off? And what are they going to think about her? And she has to go through all that, and so she did the right thing. Verizon went and they wiped the phone clean and gave it back to her.
Yeah, at that point, it's best to re-image the phone.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, and so she did the right thing. So we wanted to talk about how malware can get on an Android phone. What it does, and then most importantly, give you some tips on how to keep your Android phone safe.
Your first question would be, how does it not get on your phone?
Yes, yes, there are lots of ways.
There's so many ways, just as many ways you do with your PC.
Now, we can't blame this on Java, though. Is that right? We can't blame Java?
Well, everything you write on Android's in Java.
That's true. Yep.
But that's not necessarily the issue, though. No,
Yeah.
No, it's not the issue.
Yeah. But we have the usual ways. We have malicious apps. And John, I think you have a great stat for this, don't you, about how many apps might be actually infected or malicious?
I'm sorry you actually caught me on that one. I'm there. I did read up on the stat, and I can't remember the number.
I
but
can. You talk about the F-Secure stat?
Yeah,
F-Secure is 54,000.
54,000.
54,000 in the Play Store.
Yeah.
And that's their actual.
Yeah.
Where they want you to go. You know,
Right.
that's really scary. Hey, go over here and get infected.
Yeah. No, the thing is, unlike, and this is nothing, I'm not going to go negative on the Play Store, but unlike the Apple Store where it's very curated,
Yeah.
they had taken the approach they want it very open. So the Android itself is very open, and they want the Play Store to be very open as well. So with that comes the risk of
That's right.
having more malware. Now, they have added some things in there that's supposed to help find this, but
Right.
F-Secure still did their scan and found 54,000 of them.
That's right.
So, something's not working as good as it should probably.
Right.
And that's just reported off of what's inside their legitimate store, let alone what's just available on the web. And that
Well, yeah,
number
if you
is
go to a non-Play Store, you're open for
Yeah.
anything at that point.
That's right.
and one of our prediction episodes, one of the companies actually predicted that malicious apps based on open source phone operating systems was going to quickly approach 1 million.
Oh, they said by the end of the year it'll be over 1 million.
Yeah.
1 million different variants of
And,
malware.
And I remember that we went over that statistics and just keep in mind that's not just that's not 1 million in the store. That's just
No, right.
1 million out there because a lot of people use more than just the approved store.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the number of infected phones was some outrageous number. I don't remember what it was, but it was like unbelievable.
And I believe we reported 2 episodes ago about how most of the phones in China, which there are a lot of Android phones, again, we said that most of their PCs are infected, almost half. Well, the Android phones, most of those were infected as well.
Well, in China, it's either Android or a feature phone because Apple doesn't have a phone. They will here soon, China Telecoms, and them working on the deal. But up to this point, it had to be Android or a feature phone because they didn't have any other choice. They didn't have the iOS option there. So, but I'm sure when they get iOS, then that's another target for them as well to start it.
And we're not knocking on Android. This is no downplay on Android. This is honestly what's really sad is this is a growing pain.
Yeah,
right.
They're probably a victim of their own success.
They're gonna have to grow through it.
That and I mean they're very open, and that's what they want it to be. And I understand open source, and most open source things have the same issue, but they don't grow at the speed that Android has grown. Yeah. So
it's almost trusting to a fault.
yeah, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Well, the other ways are phishing emails. We've talked a lot about phishing tonight, but you should never click on an email that you're not familiar with.
I think people forget about that. I think that they only can get phished off of their actual laptop.
Yeah, it's like you think, well, my phone's safe, right?
Yeah.
And it's no safer than your laptop is.
That's
So,
right. Yeah, they don't really realize, it's just this little thing. With,
That's
Right,
a handheld computer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
It's more powerful than my first computer.
Yeah, that's right.
by a long shot.
That's right.
By a long shot, much more powerful than my first computer.
Yeah, a lot powerful than my first Apple IIe.
Yeah, well, my first one on it's Timex Sinclair, I think, was my first.
Yeah.
My
I'm
first
not
one.
going to age myself.
You can't go too much earlier than that.
Commodore 64. Commodore 64.
That was after the Sinclair.
Yeah.
The screen was this big. Is that correct? Was the screen that big?
I think
built in the
I
thing?
think the keyboard was
Yeah.
the biggest part of the whole thing.
Yep.
And then the keys alone were probably the size of big old knights. So.
Also, malicious attachments. We know about that. Here's something, Mike, I'm going to have to ask you about. So we know that we have websites for mobile devices. Are they any less secure?
No, they're not less secure, but they're not necessarily more secure.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have the same content on a mobile website as you can a regular website. I mean, you can still put the JavaScript in there. Most web browsers on mobile phones will still run the JavaScript.
Yeah.
And if you're on an iPhone, it won't run Java, but Android does run Java, so you still have the potential to have the same exploits there as well.
Then why the need for like a website? If you go to a website,
I mean the M dots.
Yeah, or the mobile dot.
All that is just a reformatted screen, so it fits to the size of the phone.
Okay.
So, like, if you go with on an iPad, most things won't take you to an M dot site on an iPad because the screen's bigger. That's all it's done. That's all that really is. So.
So what can it do when malware gets on your phone? Well, like Linda, it can take you to certain websites you don't want to go to. And the advantage there is that we've talked about this before, is that malware makers have lots of ways they can make money. And if they can hit that site as many times as possible, and in this case over and over and over and over again, well, they're going to get more money for that, for the clicks, for their tags on it.
So Dennis, is it realistically to say that the same type of malware that I can get on my PC is going to land on my phone?
You know, I noticed in the BlackBerry one, one that we brought up, is that Trend Micro had a pattern, just like any other backdoor pattern. So
Right.
we are looking at the same type of malware.
Yeah, and I can actually talk to some of this too, because as part of my other duties, I've been working on an MDM solution, and actually been purposely infecting my phone to see what
Your Android phone?
Yeah, my Android phone. Yeah, and it's been pretty interesting to see what all it does. I've actually got some tools now to do some of the reverse engineering, and I can see it sending out things that I'm doing. So as I'm dialing a phone number, or if I'm using a web or typing in my information, it's still doing the same thing that a PC would do. It's doing keystroke logging and sending information out. So if I check my bank account on my phone, I'm just as dangerous on a phone as I am on my computer if I'm infected. So.
Have you, just curious, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but did you root out your...
I've done that too. Right now, I've re-imaged it back. It's not rooted. And getting ready to do another test, because the MDM should stop you from, well, it won't stop you from rooting it.
Right.
But if you do root it, it'll disable your phone from using the enterprise data. And that was the part of the test. So I went through it, and it didn't work the first time, and they didn't think they know why now, so I put it back to normal. So, but yeah, on the MDM solution, it's supposed to check, make sure you have antivirus and things like that turned on, certain passwords set, things like that.
But I mean, the success rate of not all, but a majority of these are whether or not you've rooted or jailbreak, which is the iOS.
Well, the thing is,
jailbreak.
the one that I have will actually root the device.
Oh, to root it for
Yeah.
Yeah, it does the root.
Yes.
So
That's the
basically, it
infection.
does a privilege escalation.
It does exactly what it does. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Also, our favorite way of getting financial information, it's going to get your bank account information or your birth date if you're infected. It gives others the ability to monitor your phone calls and text messages. I imagine that's what happens at Black Hat conferences. You've got to turn that phone off. Sends messages to premium service. We talked about this last week. What was the name of that vulnerability? Bill Me Up or what was that one? Oh, Bill Shocker.
Bill Shocker. That was Bill
yeah.
Shocker. Yeah.
Yes.
You see your bill.
Good job. So it's going to go to SMS numbers that cost extra money, such as calling a 1-900 or 976 number.
Yeah. Now I've heard of one here recently, and I haven't tried this one. I mean, the ones I infected with, I knew what they did to see what when I was testing out the different antivirus stuff. But I've heard of one now that will actually send a text with a phishing link to all your friends that have phone numbers in your phone. It'll send a text. So that's pretty brazen too.
I mean, that's like a compromised email account,
Exactly.
or a compromised Facebook account. It's the whole trust factor. Well, it came from Mike. It's got to be good.
That's exactly right.
And the last vulnerability is it can turn your phone number into part of a botnet, so others can execute commands remotely, such as spam or DDoS attacks.
So now mobile devices it's not just your standard laptop.
No. Yeah, so there's pretty serious attacks that can happen here.
Yeah.
Moving zombies.
Zombies again.
Yeah, we're
Moving
back to,
zombies
We're
this
back to
time.
that zombies thing again.
That's
yeah.
right.
Moving zombies. So how do you and that just gotta, boy, I tell you what, that just kind of bothers me because of the fact that usually you can identify your botnets or your zombie nets or zombie computers because what are the chances of your tower, your iMac walking or moving?
Yeah, well, here's the other thing about mobile devices. They're typically behind a proxy.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to find out who really is doing it. Right now, you can typically go to Comcast and track back somebody's home by IP address. On a mobile phone, you're probably on a tenant address behind a NAT, and you're talking out through them. So it's so hard to find. And you're mobile.
Yeah, based off of where you're picking up from. So I could literally drive from one part of town to another and just reconnect with the closest access point to where I'm at now. And
Right. Well, yeah. If you're constantly moving, it's
It's almost like a Tor network. It's like a moving Tor network.
Now they do. The phone companies do keep track of what IP everybody has.
Yeah.
But that's an extra step in the process. You and like us, as we're trying to figure out where somebody's coming from, just can't go and say, oh, well, it's coming from Maryland, because the phone number, your IP addresses are all over the United States. For example, for like AT&T. So they may cover a region per se, but still you can't tell where in general where it's even coming from.
And the technology exists right now that you can MAC spoof or IP spoof. You can probably because we see these cross-platform malwares that can go from an actual laptop device to a mobile device. MAC spoofing and IP spoofing is, if it's not already there and we haven't seen it, it's probably real close.
Right.
Yeah. So, how do you secure your Android device from infecting your device? Well, we're going to talk about these, I bet, because we've kind of gone through these. Protect your Android with a password, and you should do it now.
Yep.
Not 1, 2, 3, 4.
Every phone should have a password.
That's right.
And I'm going to say, in particular, I want to mention this with Android, is make it more than 4 characters.
Yes. Yeah.
And the reason I say that is...
Depending on what type you have. Is that
no,
right?
not necessarily. I'm going to give a plug for another site here. It's called Hack5. If you go to Hack5 and you look for the Android, I can't remember what it's called, but they have a little stick they use, and they give you the program. You can download it off of Hack5, and in 16 hours it'll break every passcode, 4-digit passcode on your phone, without locking the phone.
Right.
So
without locking the phone.
Right. Now, if you have something like an MDM, that should protect you, like so many retries, but you can see them actually do it, and you can download and do it yourself if you want. So 6 characters is more than 16 hours. That's all I'm saying. It's a little bit longer.
Well, I believe that there are some that you can use the characters and the.
Well, if you want to go complex,
numbers.
but some people say it's too hard because you got to use the full size
and
keyboard.
You have to do it,
or just
and you may
numbers.
have to do it quickly.
Right. That break that they did on Hack5 was actually with 4 digits, so 0 to 9 and 4 digits. So the more complex, the longer it takes.
I think it's just a simple lock. It falls along the lines of locks only keep honest people out, right?
Right, and it's one of those things where even I know it can be broken, but some of my friends, I'm going to put this on some friends, I can think of one in particular, that if he knew my password, could log in and send things to people that he shouldn't be sending to people. So it keeps your friends out of your phone. How's that? That's the best way to put it.
I dropped my daughter off at the library, and I walked through, and I saw 1, 2, 3, 4 phones just sitting at the desk. And I wonder how many of those did have passwords. And the easiest way to drop malware or to do anything is just to grab it and, just like if you leave your PC, out in the open. So you're right. It keeps honest people out, but it definitely keeps a dishonest person out who just wants a quick and easy win.
Right.
We had a report a couple episodes ago of malware to phone to
PC.
Yes.
Yeah, phone to PC.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, I've heard of PC to phone, but phone to PC's.
That's right. And that was the first instance of that.
Yeah.
So we not necessarily phone to PC, but we have run into Palo, a worm that does storage device to PC. So the natural progression is there. It's already there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now to see phone to PC, just lock it up.
A quick word about biometric passwords. I don't think I would recommend it for a phone.
Well, you talk about the face ones, like you stick it up and it looks at your face?
Well, there's a Motorola device out there, Android, that you can use your thumbprint.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I've seen the one you put your finger on the back of it,
Yeah.
And it goes down like that. Yeah, I've seen that before. But there's certain Android phones now that can do face recognition, or is it the Windows phone that does that?
I think it's the Windows phone.
Yeah, I can't remember which one.
Ties all
exactly.
into the Windows 8 platform.
Yeah, maybe it is Windows phone. I know the Windows 8 platform on the screen, you can do the multi-touch thing, different places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't recommend it for a phone. I just don't think it works. And a lot of times I do some carpentry work and I cut up my fingers, and I just don't think it would work. And then, I got to get into my phone.
Well, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. Your fingers get cut off in the end or something.
That's right.
You can't get into it anymore.
Now this one's going to cause some controversy. Do not root your Android. So we have a technical following. And I see why somebody would want to do that, just as I see somebody would want to jailbreak an iOS phone.
Right, and I don't recommend you to jailbreak it either. I mean, actually, is it illegal to jailbreak your phone?
It's no longer illegal.
No, it's not illegal to jailbreak it.
Breaks the warranty.
It breaks the warranty. It is illegal to take it off of your site or something. I can't remember what it was. There was something about if it's like off a carrier, take it off a carrier. I think that's illegal. So.
Yeah. But you shouldn't do it because the system level access is just one more defense for your phone.
Exactly.
And a lot of people try to say, well, I purchased the phone, I should have full function, full access to the phone. When what they don't understand is we're trying to protect you.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not trying to stifle.
Yeah, you're basically
you.
getting the protection that Android's built in. You go past if you start reading your phone.
Yeah. So if you're going to root your phone, just make sure you know what you're doing and know the risk.
Right, and that goes with iPhones too, as
Yep.
far as jailbreaking.
Jailbreaking.
phones.
Yep.
Yeah.
You should stick to the official Android App Center. Go ahead and hit me with it, John. You go to the official App Center. What happens? There's a good amount of infected apps there.
I just and I think what it is the iOS has done a good job with App Store, so you have the App Center for Android and
apples and oranges there.
But you want to promote this we've got a process. We've established a process.
Yeah.
Don't go out to a website and just yank because it's open source. That's why Mike and I were saying earlier. It's what did we say? It's open to a fault. It's kind of to a fault.
Open source is general. I mean, I am a proponent of open source. I love open source stuff,
Yeah.
and I think for the most part, it's more secure because people can. As a community, get together and fix things. That's happening
right.
with Linux. Is everybody gets together and they fix things.
Exactly. Yeah.
The problem is these carriers are not. It's open source, but they're not treating it as open source. They do their own stuff to it and never give you access to share that. So it's open source. People can find the vulnerabilities. I know that's one of the issues I have with Android is to get an upgrade, you have to go to the carrier.
Yeah.
Or on the iPhone, you can just get it right. You get it updated right away. Now that's not true with the Nexus phone like from Google.
Yep.
That you get over their updates. But like my S3 on AT&T, I'm waiting for AT&T to upgrade me to a newer version, and it's never available. So it's one of those things where you just can't quickly fix vulnerabilities. So the open source concept kind of goes away because you don't really have anybody working on it openly.
Right.
Well, for Samsung, they have their own version of it. But people can still download what they started with and find the vulnerabilities and exploit it. So it's open source, yes, but it's not open source as in like a Linux open source.
Yeah. There might be another way to vet out if you do a little research. So before you go to the Play Store, why don't you go to CNET or go to the PC
most definitely.
and see what they say,
Right.
And that's the other thing that everybody's doing now is it's the coder's integrity. So they're doing reputation checks.
Yeah, or reviews. I read the reviews before.
Yeah, read the reviews. Yeah.
Which attributes to.
But just take the reviews, if there's not very many of them, with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they're peppered in there by the actual app developers. So.
Yeah, on my Nexus 7, I've actually seen where people say, I downloaded this and I got infected.
Right.
So I did not download that app. So.
I gotta say, my wife does have a Droid, and I really, 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 really get nervous when she wants to do something on her phone. So before I do anything on her phone, I am actually on my computer doing a little bit of research to make sure it is okay before we even touch it.
Yeah.
So this goes to the next thing. Does she run antivirus on her phone?
I have installed.
What did you install? Lookout?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Lookout's probably the number one out there.
Is it a free product?
It's free. Lookout's free.
Yeah.
So I got it off your Security 101.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I still have some questions about it, and I think they can be better exposed in the Security 101 because as far as mobile computing, I'm still learning on that field, and our field is always growing and always shifting, and it gives us plenty of opportunity. You just have to learn. And that's why I like it and stay in it.
As part of this MDM project that I'm working on, I reviewed a whole bunch of that antivirus stuff, and my favorite of all of them is Lookout.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Yeah, it's free.
So, but most of the big vendors, I know McAfee has one, Trend even has one now.
Yeah.
So does Norton has one now. Yeah. So there's a couple other ones out there too.
I even have one on my iPhone.
Oh, you do? I don't.
Yeah,
I can't say I have one on there.
Because
Never even thought about that.
Because of the fact that there was that recent breach to
Right.
the
Right.
apps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we should say that we're not picking on Android because iOS can have very similar issues. They do tend to curate their products better. In fact, if you ever put an app on the App Store, it takes 2 weeks for them to review it. And I've had one that didn't like how I was doing things. It was questionable. So they definitely do review the apps a little closer, which is probably why it's less likely to get infected.
Yeah.
But they're still definitely can get infected.
So the scanner that I have on my phone was also free, and it was off the App Store. Not only does it check to make sure that my phone doesn't have anything that's suspicious or possibly malware, but it also tells me if I have a questionable app, and why it feels it's questionable as far as the information that it's requesting,
Oh, okay.
the information that it wants to post. So, just to make sure that, hey, do I really want that information to get away from me?
Right, right.
So the last suggestion that we have is turn off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi hotspot if you're not using it, or if you're going out someplace other than where your hotspot is.
Yeah.
And-
Now, this is something that I didn't know until recently, and I don't know if it's just on my S3. I think it's on my Nexus 7 too. There's actually a really quick way to turn it off and on. You just pop down from the top, and
Yeah.
there's a button for Wi-Fi on and off, Bluetooth on and off right there.
Yep.
So
Don't
it's
you
real
have
quick
the
to get
ability
to.
though to instead of turning it off to say notify me before you connect, so it'll let you know, hey, something is trying to connect to you, so that way you don't get a blind connection.
You can set up so it doesn't connect automatically to open networks.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it that way. Yeah. But a lot of times people. So there's a couple other things I would actually recommend. A
Well,
lot
they
of the
leave it in
phones now have the
discovery
ability to
mode or
do the
something.
share files, like
Yeah.
bump them and stuff like that.
Right.
That's on by default, I think now.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know if it's by default. We were playing with that one day. A couple of people were playing with
Yep.
transferring files from phone to phone using the Wi-Fi local
That's right.
network thing. So
And I gotta
careful
say,
about that.
with everybody with phones, like Dennis said, that he walked in after dropping his dart off and there was 4 phones. So if I want to deliver malware and that's on by default, how easy is it just for me to pretend I'm gonna lay my phone here and go, oh yeah, thank you, and walk away.
yeah, right.
Yep. Any other suggestions?
If you can encrypt your drive, that's probably good. Most, depending what version of Android you're running, I think it's 4.1 or newer.
Yeah.
You can encrypt. You have to be plugged in when you do it, and battery speed above 80%. The Android won't do it until you get
Yeah.
above 80% plugged into the power.
Yeah.
But that's probably a good thing to do as well. It gives good protection.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Bless you.
We need to get a sneeze
Gotta wait
switch
till
here.
it's done. I gotta ask you, typically from box to pocket, when I get a new phone, ideally if that is not done right away, chances are it's not gonna happen. If a user is aware of this, how long from box to pocket does it take for me to add these additional layers to help protect my data?
Well, there's a couple answers to that. If you're new to Google or the Play Store, it's going to take you a little while. You need like 4 or 5 apps, and it doesn't take that long, like 10, 15 minutes. But if you've already done it once on another phone or another device, as soon as you log in, it's going to go download all your stuff for you. It's going to be right there, ready to
So
come
is it
down.
cloud?
It's cloud, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They have a cloud similar to iCloud. I mean, it's very similar
Yep.
in concept. Or just like when on Apple, you buy an Apple on one phone, your other phone sees it's
Yeah.
purchased. It's very similar to that. So it's the equivalent of doing that.
Well, good, Linda. So that's why your phone was infected. So hopefully we won't have any more of that. And
Yeah, that was an embarrassing infection, huh?
and as Mike, as you pointed out on Security 101, there are more tips, and I bet you we have some more.
Along the same subject, next week's Security 101 is about iPhones and location services and how you can turn them off to help protect yourself. Like, so when you post to Facebook, you don't tell everybody where you are. Like, if you don't want people,
Right.
like not all my people on my Facebook do I know very well. I don't want them all to know where I live,
That's
things
right.
like that. So I turned that off. But I couldn't find the same thing in Android.
Yeah.
So this is like a request to everybody. If you know how to do that in Android, let me know, and I'll do a Security 101.
And
too.
I gotta say that that request service has a physical security application to it too, where people have actually used that to say, "Oh, someone's not home, and I know where you live."
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I've actually, when my niece first got her cell phone, and hopefully she doesn't watch this because she'll be embarrassed if I talk about her, but she was posting to Facebook and it basically was saying where she was. It was saying where she was home, and there's a lot of stalkers out there that use Facebook now.
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't want your kids to become victim to that. So she doesn't do that anymore. She just didn't know. So, but that was one of those kind of things where I turn it off too. I turn off Twitter, Google Plus. I turn off lots of things that are location based. Some things required though. My sister took it to the extreme and she turned off everything.
Yeah.
But then maps don't work, and weather doesn't work right. So
That's
all
right.
these things don't work right if
Yeah.
you turn it off completely. So it's just nice to have it,
Yeah.
functions.
Or I've turned it off in my Nexus 7, but I have to turn it back on whenever I want to use the maps feature.
Right.
I am,
right.
and I am victim to that because of the fact that how many times do I actually use the map feature versus not? So
Yeah, but I use like almost every day. I use Waze to travel back and forth. It tells me where there's traffic. It tells me where people are broken
Yeah.
down, things like that, so I can avoid them. And it doesn't work without location services. And I use
your commute though I would
Yeah.
understand that, and my commute's a little bit simpler, so I think it's more of a lifestyle.
Right.
You gotta make sure that it adapts to your
I went
lifestyle.
through it the other day, and I was trying to look at all the different things that I use it for. And actually, if you watch the video next week, you'll scroll. And when I'm scrolling through there, you'll see all the stuff I got installed. I got a ton of apps on my phone.
Yeah.
But there's some things I definitely use very regularly. Well, Siri doesn't work right if you don't.
Yeah.
If you don't, you have location services turned on. So things like that. So.
Well, good. So, for show notes for this show, contact details and more, go to Security Decoded TV website, where you can get show notes and watch all the other episodes of Security Decoded. While there, check out the other great shows at TechZen TV, especially Security 101, where we've covered a lot of the topics that we've covered tonight. Okay, for the end of the show question, one thing we didn't cover is that Burger King was hacked. Their Twitter account was hacked. Did anybody see that?
No, I
I totally missed that.
Yes. So they were hacked.
King was hacked.
Yeah, the Twitter account was hacked, and so for a few hours, the Burger King said, "Do not eat here," and there's a picture of McDonald's over on the side. So
Oh.
a very embarrassing hack.
That must have been a McDonald's employee, right?
Yes, yeah, something was going on there, and it's your old-fashioned defacement kind of hack
Right.
here. Same thing with Jeep. The company Jeep also got hacked as well.
Oh,
the
really?
Twitter
Jeep?
account. Yep, same.
What, did he put a Chevy logo on?
Yeah, same kind of thing. They cross out the Jeep, and it's the same thing. So I thought for our end question, first of all, I'm going to give us a chance to say, what's your favorite fast food place and/or car maker? And last week we said, what was the most dangerous thing or the thing that scared us most about our topics? What's the most positive highlight that you think that we talked about this week? So I'm going to go ahead first, and I really like Wendy's. I don't know why, but I like the single burger, and I think it just tastes better.
Well, they have the fries that are fresh cut,
I love those fries.
and the way that the meat's kind of done. It's not like it's pre-made meat. It's like it's hand done. So
They have changed. I remember Wendy's when I was a kid, and it looked like someone threw steak in between your bun, and that's when they had the "Where's the beef?"
I remember Where's the Beef?
Yeah.
I am a diehard Big Mac. I'm a Big Mac junkie.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember John is a McDonald's junkie,
Yeah.
and for a while there, you couldn't have any. It was like going through withdrawal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. What's your
Well, the most heartening thing that I think was the response to the China hacks. That this is serious. That we've seen these same hacks, and we've got to start doing something about them. Something real, not just pay lip service to them. So I think we've seen a progression. Before, no one wanted to say, we got hacked. I don't want to say anything. Let's keep this quiet. And then people started to say, yes, we got hacked. But now it's time to put a more positive spin on it and say, this is how we got hacked, and this is how we're going to stop it. And I think I see that happening. Yeah.
So after getting my McDonald's fix.
Do you like the fries? Do you like the fries better than
Oh,
Wendy's fries?
I hate their fries.
I've never liked them.
They're too salty.
Now the best thing about their fries is you can leave them in your car for a week and then never get mold on it. Snack for later.
Same
you
thing
don't
with the
want your-
McRib.
You don't want your inside to get moldy. Is that what it is?
I think my biggest positive spin on all of this was a story that Mike talked about, which was a phase to malware. Long gone are the days when we were younger of Revenge of the Nerds. It's not the tape between the glasses, the laugh.
I can get some tape.
It's not Office Space, the guy lurking down in the basement.
Yeah.
How much more
Personal.
Then you get on that. That is someone you walk by at the store. That is somebody
Right.
that's sitting next to McDonald's enjoying it.
And that's his wife and kids. He's not in a little dark room somewhere, with thousands of monitors around him. He's outside with his kids.
And that is your stereotypical thing now. And great, good for you for showing that. You know, we need to increase the visibility. We need to stop hiding from this, and we need to start learning from each other. And being able to put a face to it is a great start.
Right.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah. Mike, how about you?
So my favorite fast food is Love That Chicken.
Love that chicken.
You know,
Popeyes.
I don't eat a lot of fried food, but I can eat some Popeyes
Well, it's the
fried
spicy chicken from Popeyes.
I love the spicy chicken.
So that's what gets me.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite fast food.
Yeah, the greatest thing too is if you have a cold, it'll just.
Oh yeah, that's the great thing. Just starts draining your head right out. Yeah.
I like it when you get the bottom pieces and they kind of make you cry when you eat the.
Yeah, when you're pulling it apart and you see all the little red stuff that didn't cook. Oh, that's the best part.
That's right.
That's so dangerous.
And probably my positive thing is I'm happy to see that there's finally some government on our side, the executive order and then the State of the Union address. I feel like there's some seriousness finally giving to this because
Some acknowledgement.
I mean, yeah, and it's one of those things where I can tell people how bad it is, but nobody understands really how bad it is. They just don't get it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, if other people start from outside of the average person telling them this, and the government starting to say it's bad, they start taking some action on that. So
I think the industry needs to really just go with the momentum on that because of the fact that has anyone ever read a government doc? If they can actually take that and layman it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to try to read that before today, and I started reading. I'm thinking like, I'm too tired to read this. There's no way. That was last night.
Yeah.
And I don't have time today to read it.
It's like Mike said. That's a great stance.
Yeah.
It's a.
But when the president sits up there and takes a stance on it, that to me means that there's people should listen, a little bit more openly now to that.
And I think we can really drive it home by saying, well, what does this really mean to you?
All right. Exactly.
Right. Okay, well, that is our show for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks again.
See ya.
For show notes for this show, contacts, and more, go to the texn.tv website where you can get show notes for all of our shows. We love to hear from our viewers and listeners. We have an email, a Twitter, and a phone number where you can contact us for each show. For details, visit the texn.tv website and get the show details. You can also make a video and upload it somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo and then just send us a link. You never know, you may see your video in a future show. You can get all of our shows delivered automatically to your favorite device by going to your favorite podcast website like iTunes and subscribing. Each of our shows also has a YouTube channel you can subscribe to get regular updates. Our shows are also available on most internet radio networks like Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. You can also watch and listen to our shows on Xbox, TiVo, and Roku. You can even find us on your Zune.